We have just seen a bigger pullback on Bitcoin. We have geopolitical tension and the markets are reacting. I'm going to show you a very special boss pattern, which is called a fractal, which might take us up to $133,000. So I'm going to give you my perspective of whether I'm still bullish, if I flip bearish, or what I am looking at next. So with that, welcome to this technical analysis video of BTC. And I want to start by explaining this exact fractal, because something that we hear over and over when it comes to trading is that history does not repeat, but it rhymes. So let's have a look at the weekly time frame, and I want to zoom out and look all the way back to this all-time high that we had at $69,000. When I saw that, I was doing my analysis last week and I was like, that just looks familiar to what we are doing currently. We had this first push into $64,900. We got a bigger pullback, then we have taken the highs again. We went into this massive bear market before we then finally made a new all-time high, which ultimately brought us up to $112,000, as we all know. But I was looking at this fractal and I was like, yeah, that just looks very similar to what we are doing now, just that it doesn't take as much time as it took back in 2021 and this final breakout here in 2024. So I'm going to show you how we can replicate this price action down to the more local time frames and see how similar this price action looks. I am using a fractal of this entire price action. I've already copied it. I'm going down to the daily time frame and show you how similar that looks right here. So this is our fractal from 2021, where we moved into this was $64,000 and then the $69,000 all-time high. We can see this looks exactly the same as to what we are doing here in 2024. We got this first push into a new all-time high. Then we made another all-time high before we went into this, we can call it mini bear market. It wasn't even a bear market, but we got this pullback, right? Then price had to attempt it once more to push into a new all-time high, and currently we are pretty flat. So if we just look at what was happening here on the weekly time frame again, we then had this almost downward sloping channel, or we can look at this as a bull flag. Okay, so price was making lower highs and lower lows, but not really having the strength to push us further to the downside, and instead we then just had another nice impulse to the upside. So let's have a look at what we are doing here and how well this fractal plays out. So I even want to go down to the 4-hour time frame and look at this. So I was looking at this last week, by the way, and last week I saw this, how well this is playing out up here, where price was making this new all-time high. We had a minor retracement, formed that lower high, and by looking at this fractal, I was doing a altcoin weekly update. I mentioned that I will have a look at BTC, and I said there is a beautiful chance for us to take an SFP long trade if we SFP this low at around $100,500. So if we just have a look at the setup that I shared last week, it was this long trade. And I knew, or I just had a feeling that this fractal is too good to be true almost. And this was looking at this exact pivot right here where we SFP this low, form another lower high before we potentially move into $97,000 and then ultimately get the next breakout. So is this something that I feel is probable? I'm obviously going to explain this in that video right here, but I must say, thus far, this fractal is playing out perfectly. It would bring us to at least $132,000. So this is a very interesting scenario. I'm obviously going to pair it with my own technical analysis, as I can solely rely on a fractal like this. It's good to be aware of that, but it's not enough to solely trade based off that, all right? So how am I currently positioned? I am obviously in this long trade. I'm going to show you. So this was a extract from my altcoin weekly update. I shared the setup here, wanted to see the breakdown of this trend line, wanted to look for this SFP long trade here, and we can see how well that played out. So this was literally the exact low of this move, so that is perfect. I am positioned long. I have obviously taken profits on this move to the upside, as we already got it, nearly 10% move to the upside. And it's not very sensible to be 10% in the profit on a day trade, because at the time I also had to realize this is only a day trading long. This is why I called it day trading long. And I always have to take profits on these trades. At the same time, in the same stream, I also presented a potential short trade. So this was a short trade at around $109,000. We had a weekly NPOC up here. So we are in the fortunate situation of a long trade from the lows and a short trade from the highs. So what am I looking next? Am I taking new trades? What is my next trade? I'm going to give you my exact next trade in this video. I'm just going to hide the trades that we are already in. Now we can see price is a little bit range bound here. Following the geopolitical tension that we had, we got another drop to the downside into a daily NPOC at around $103,000. So if you ask me, I prefer to not take a new position where we are now. I like to stay in this long trade, like to stay in this hedged short trade, and then simply either wait for a move to the upside or a bigger pullback where I can position myself again. Okay, so now is where it gets interesting. I'm gonna hide this NPOC, this is already hit. I'm going to hide this NPOC as that is already hit. And I am going to remind you of this fractal once again. So this fractal suggests that we're going to get one more liquidity grab into around $97,000 before we get a move to the upside. So for myself, I want to find good confluences at around this level to see if it's worth taking a trade at around this level or not. So I'm going to hide this, zoom out to the daily time frame and check this area down here. So I found that very, very interesting. When I looked at the area around, we must say it's a zone between 98,000 and 97,000. We have very interesting confluences where I almost feel like not too many people look at this level. We have a naked weekly value area low lining up at $97,000 in perfect confluence with this fractal. If we pull an anchored view up from this current low, we can see this comes in at around $99,000. I feel like this anchored view up is going to be a pretty obvious level. What I prefer to see is just one dip below this anchored view up before a quick reclaim. So how can I use this? I prefer to see this confluence hit, because if we pull a massive fixed range, we also have additional confluence of this overall range point of control lining up with this level as well. So for me, context is pointing towards 97,000 to be a good long trade. We have confluence lining up, so now I need an entry trigger. I'm going to hide this, zoom into it again. And what I like to see here is get this move, according to the fractal, into 97,000 and then still wait for the reclaim of this anchored VWAP as my sign of strength for me to take this long trade. Okay, so this would look something along the lines of another drop into this level, waiting for strength to come in, waiting for the reclaim of this anchored VWAP before I take this trade, at least targeting $120,000, but ultimately even looking for this move into $132,000 on Bitcoin. So this could be a potential long trade that I'm taking if my confluence is hit and if I get the sign of strength. I don't like to preset orders on BTC. I always prefer to see the reaction first, be a little bit later to the party as opposed to trying to catch the absolute low of the move, but then take the best trades only. Okay, so this would be the setup here on BTC. I know it's a very ambitious target, but it is in the realms of possibilities. So My stop loss is not going to be too wide. This is perfectly fine. I have yet to see where this low is going to be put in. I wait for the sign of strength and then I can take my long trade. So this is my next swing trade I am interested in on BTC. Locally, I'm already positioned in a long trade from the lows. It was shared in my stream. Short trade from the highs. This was also shared in my stream. So there's nothing that we missed in this price action. We can now stay patient for the next best trade to come to us. We don't like to chase a trade where we don't 100% feel this price action. And I'm going to show you why I can easily decide that this is not a trade I like to involve myself in. Okay, so I consider myself a more conservative trader. I like to take few trades, but only the best trades, as opposed to trying to trade every single pivot, but then have a massive hit on my win rate, for example. So why can I easily identify this is not the best level? This simply comes down to market structure. So what is market structure telling us? We are making lower highs and higher lows. So we might as well draw a trend line here and see this contracting price action. Is this giving me a high probability to trade here? I would say not really. I can look for some intraday trades and all of that stuff, but for a high probability swing trade, this is not the context that I want to see. And if you remember my video on my altcoin strategy, it's very similar to what I do on BTC. If I don't have context lining up, this is the most important pillar in my entire trading strategy. I need to have context lining up. If that already doesn't line up, I don't even have to look at a confluence, as it simply is not meeting my criteria for a trade. I do still feel that BTC has a super high probability to push into a new all-time high. I want to see the pullback to the downside first to position myself in a brand new long trade. What I would do to this short trade, obviously, is I'm just going to stay in this trade, not going to close this if we move into my level at $97,000. Because it started as a hedge trade, but if we crash from here, I'm in the fortunate position of just letting that short trade run. Okay, I'm not taking a new position, but I'm keeping these positions open for now. So a final reminder, this is the Fractal, which honestly gave us this exact low right here at $100,000, this SFP. Perfect trade. We knew we have to look for that lower high. It's not going to push into a new all-time high straight away. We're going to struggle here, make that move into the downside again before we can push to the upside. If that plays out, this would just be insane. Okay, we have to take it with a pinch of salt, as I said. Okay, we can look at this as a reference, but not just blindly trade off of this. I hope that makes sense. Okay, we are professionals here. We don't simply trade based off this, but it is a super interesting pivot to say the least. So I also want to give a quick update on Solana. As on Solana, if you remember, we had some very interesting trades as well. So I publicly mentioned that I bought spot at around $100 on Solana. I gave a short trade at $184. Then I was looking for a day trading long at around $146. So what am I looking at next? So here we need to go to Solana and see how this played out. So this was a long trade down here, hedged myself up here with a nice short trade. Why? It's just my favorite level, a previous range value area low. Always we have to think about context once again. Value theory, if we lose a fixed range, so a volume profile, we form a new range, we retest a previous range value area low. The first retest has a super high probability to get a rejection and vice versa. If we break out, retest a previous range value area high. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, no problem at all. We have intense courses about this, as that is something, honestly, my humble opinion, but this is something everyone has to understand when trading, as that is super, super, super important. Okay, but this allowed me to get into this short trade here on Solana. Then we had this day trading long. I called this long idea day trade because I knew. Can I really be looking for a swing trade at around this level if we only retrace 50% of this move? Not really. It can still offer a nice bounce for a day trade, but ultimately it's not the best level to me to be entering another swing trade here. Okay. On Solana, I am still looking for my next big level at $126, where I am interested. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, it's right here. If I can get into another swing trade here on Solana. The confluence is a range point of control, a daily NPOC, a monthly, and a massive range value area low. So we have context lining up. This is that we just have taken out the $100 level, which is perfect. We had a beautiful reaction taking the highs. This means we have an attempt to change high time frame market structure, as this is our first higher high. If we move into $126, this could be the higher low for us to make a new higher high. So we have context lining up, confluence lining up. Now I need my entry trigger to form down there, and then I am going to take another swing trade here on Solana. It's as simple as that. So I can see local weakness. This is why I'm staying in this hedged short trade. But ultimately, I still feel that Solana can push into a new, at least local high, into around $200. So this is my, I would say, high time frame look on Solana. Still bullish. We see pullbacks, not the end of the world. But I do feel that Solana is an amazing asset to trade. We just get amazing respect of technical analysis, which is always something we have to analyze. When we look at new coins, for example, we get coins listed every single day, but it doesn't mean that it's good to trade all of these coins. So on Solana, I know there's decent volume, there's decent interest in Solana. We also have amazing respect of technical analysis, so that's all we can ask for. And that's why I like to trade Solana. I would even say, in terms of crypto, besides BTC, Solana is one of my most traded assets. Okay, so Solana, very nice. And with that, I would say I'm just going to wrap it up here. So to summarize, on BTC, if we get another drop to the downside, I'm interested in this swing long trade. On Solana, if we get a drop, I'm interested in loading up on Solana. So this is what I'm going to do. I just have to stay patient. And this is something I already mentioned on Wednesday in the public live trading stream on YouTube. I feel like on altcoins, sometimes we just have to stay out of these markets. We have to wait for a bigger move to happen and then jump into the best trades only. When we look at the local timeframes, it does not make any sense to be chasing trades. I prefer to maybe take 1 or 2 trades a week, but win these 2 trades, as opposed to taking 10 trades a week, trying to force trades in between, and then end up with a win rate of 40 to 50%. In the long run, I'm going to say in the long run, less is more. So I hope you understand what I mean by this. You can do your own back testing, have a look at the charts, and just see typically these big levels do have some good reactions. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this fractal. Do you think it makes sense that we can get another drop into 97,000, or do you think a target of $132,000 is a little bit too ambitious? Give me your opinion, as I will read through the comments as well. And with that, I'm just going to stay patient, wait for the next high probability trade, and see you in the next update. Bye bye.